Hello everyone, and welcome back to AmmoMart.com, where you can find real firepower online. In today's video, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive on the .455 Webley caliber. For those of you that aren't familiar, that caliber was a mainstay for the British military from its debut in 1898 all the way into the 1960s. They did, of course, use other sidearms, but that one had an amazing run through the Boer War, World War I, and World War II. Just like the Americans at the time, the British were very interested in finding a revolver that had more stopping power than your typical calibers of the day. The .455 began its life as a black powder cartridge. The round I have in front of you here is actually something they called the Mark II. This was slightly shorter in case length than the original version because, of course, this contains 6 to 7 grains of cordite powder. This, of course, is a 265 grain conical sort of projectile. Interesting thing about the .455 is, like the revolvers that shot it, and in typical British fashion, you had a Mark I, a Mark II, a Mark III, all the way to Mark VI. And every time they would improve or sort of update the revolver, they tried to do the same thing with the ammunition. So you can get this guy up to Mark IV, Mark V. Now, you can use them in any chambered Webley revolver. The main difference as time progressed was in the projectile. They would mix tin and alloys and try to get something that would, be lighter but more powerful, more stopping power. I'm not sure they were ever successful. They even had one version that was nothing but hollow points. So if you see them marked, this one, I'll get a picture of the head stamp before we're done. It actually says Mark II, designating ammunition type as well as projectile shape. So what kind of capabilities does this rascal have? Well, it weighs 265 grains. She goes down range somewhere around 700 feet per second, and that would give you around 250 to 300 foot-pounds of energy. Not anything to write home about, but for the day, more than respectable. One of the other things that was sort of a byproduct of what happened with the Webley was it was very, very shootable. It did not produce a lot of recoil in the heavy revolvers at the time. I don't have a Webley revolver to show you, but I do have this iconic piece of history here. This is a Smith & Wesson model 1908 triple lock, still highly sought after by gun collectors. This thing is really cool and has an amazing history. There's English proof marks all over this guy because of World War I, the Brits couldn't make enough of their own, so they hired Smith & Wesson and Colt to actually make these for them. And you can tell, of course, your little holster lanyard here in case you lost it when you went over the top. Also of note with these finishes, it's very common to find these sort of beat up. That's important because rumor has it that when you turn this in and they were going to be released back to America for commercial sales, literally, the British gunsmith would take the revolver and give it a toss into a bin of these things. So if you'll notice, the outside finish is all chipped and dinged up. Now, interestingly enough as well, internally, the guns didn't get shot a lot. Typical day in Northwest Ohio. I'm going to put this in the sleeve for now. We're having a little liquid sunshine, and I borrowed that revolver, so I don't want to get it all mucked up. Back to the internals. If you have the chance to pick one of those guys up at a gun show, you should do so because they didn't get shot a lot. The ammunition became very expensive and very hard to source, even for the Brits. There actually used to be a saying in the British military that the ammunition allocation for their .455 Webley was 2 rounds per year per man. So if you grab one, you're in good shape. What are they worth? Well, they always bring in the triple lock model. Around $850 or so is a fair number at most gun shows. But if it's in better shape, this is very common, but if it's in really good shape, you could reasonably pay up to $1,200. Now, I'm going to load this up and do some testing with it into ballistic gel, and then I'll try a little bit of an accuracy test later on. The person that let me borrow the revolver, Dave Walters, told me that he had trouble with Fiocchi black box ammo like this. He had squib loads and light strikes and all kinds of issues with it. I'm hoping that's just a lot number and not specific to whatever's going on with this. I ordered this off the web, and man, is it expensive. More than 50 bucks. So you can still get it, but it's not something that you can afford most people to shoot all the time, or certainly to train with. And with modern technology, why would you anyway? So let's load this up and see what we get. Okay, so first, ballistic gel. This isn't really a relevant test because nobody really uses this for self-protection anymore, but being how it was designed to have manpower and stop power, I'm going to try to shoot one into there and see what happens. So I'm going to try to keep them off to the right for the first couple, and then we'll run right down the middle. One, two. So I'm going to try to move my shot up next time. You can see, if I flip this dude over, right here, the pencil line's in it. So I'm going to try to move the shot up and see if we can't catch one of these rascals. So this third shot, I'm going to try to keep a little higher and in the center. The other two have kind of went out the bottom and all of that sort of thing. So let's try to put this guy right down the middle, right down Main Street, and see what we get. Okay, let's go see. No recoil to the gun at all. Aha! I put that one right down Main Street, and you can see, I'm going to get down so everybody can see. I can see the round right there. It came in, started diving in the gel. It's now in the bottom third of the gel, but she stuck right in there, right around the 13-inch mark. So it's not dressed, but it does apparently pass barely FBI standards for this testing. And once again, this is 15%, so that's going to affect things some, but there it is. So I'm going to do a bit of an accuracy test. I'm going to use it in single action mode the first couple, and then I'm going to try the double action and see how draggy the action might be. More on that in a second. Good group. Good group. And now the double. Not too bad. One of the reasons why this particular model, the double action is a bit draggy, is if you look at the screws, I don't think they've ever been opened. I don't think they've been cleaned in 100 years. I mean, there's no evidence to suggest that this has ever been opened. So that is a potential explanation. But even at that, the thing functions extremely well. Now I'm going to toss a few more downrange, and I'm hoping to catch on camera a condition that we had when we were setting up the video. So bear with me for just 1 second. So I'm not sure, based on audio, if you'll be able to detect the last string of shots. At times with this ammunition, some of the rounds feel extremely weak related to the recoil impulse of the gun. So if you were wondering at home what all this is for, all of this was to clear a squib load that was stuck in the barrel, and it was stuck almost just past a little bit of the forcing cone. It didn't go anywhere, is the moral of that story. So this is, of course, the conical projectile that I punched out of the barrel earlier from a squib load. Not sure. I'm going to contact Fiocchi and see if this has been an ongoing problem, or it's a lot number issue, or exactly what's going on. But based on the recoil of the gun, it's all over the place. Not sure why that is, but I can tell you that the small pistol primers probably are not the answer or not the reason for that. And if you guys are interested in some of this at home, this is not right now something that I would tell you to go out and get until you do a little homework, or at least let me try to get a hold of Fiocchi I do have a little bit of a relationship with them. So I mentioned earlier this idea of the triple lock. You can see 1, 2, and 3 design features to keep the cylinder locked up tight. Probably over-engineered for the amount of power that was coming out of this particular one, but the 1908 triple lock was chambered in other calibers as well. So over-engineered, absolute tank, and a really cool piece of history. The 455 Webley caliber had an amazingly long run with the British military and its sort of leftover colonial forces around the globe. Lots of different countries used them, and there is some anecdotal evidence out there to suggest that a couple security forces still actually might be, if you can believe that, after this period of time. What caused the Webley to sort of go into the dustbin of history was the improvement of semi-automatic calibers. By the time that 9mm was ruling the world, this is no longer relevant technology. So at the end of the day, it did everything that it was supposed to do for the time that it was invented. And I don't think there's a lot more of iconic pieces of history if you watch old World War II footage or movies of the sort of lanyard over to the holster of British officers. You can almost picture them going over the top with the Webley in the holster. The Webley was actually replaced by the Browning High-Power 9 in the British military, but it took a really long time. I suspect that had a lot more to do with economics than effectiveness. The Brits weren't terribly known as an army that really emphasized a whole lot of sidearm or handgun to begin with, so I don't know that it was at the top of their list of priorities related to their military armament. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's been kind of interesting to dive into this sort of thing, and don't be afraid to like and subscribe.